A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another RPG review. Today I'm looking at G.I.Joe role-playing game. This is from Renegade Game Studios. Now, I've been highly anticipating this RPG since it was first announced. There is another one coming out for Transformers, which, I mean, who the fuck doesn't want to play an RPG set in the Transformers universe? But as a kid, Transformers and G.I. Joe were my go-to IPs. I collected the G.I. Joe figures, absolutely loved them, loved the animated series, loved the animated movie. I am a fan of the 2 live action films. I do have to admit that. I haven't seen Snake Eyes yet, so I can't really talk about that. But let's just say that G.I. Joe is very near and dear to my heart. So when I saw that this role-playing game was coming out, I'm like, yep, this is a must-buy for me, even if it's shit. I don't really care. Now, Renegade Game Studios went more for the newer comic book, which I believe is published by IDW, but I'm not too sure about that, as opposed to the campy cartoon show, and I think that was a good decision. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the rules. I've kind of skimmed through this. I just wanted to show you what's in the game itself. So let's take a look. First of all, the cover art. Phenomenal. We've got my personal favorite character, Roadblock. We've got Cobra Commander here. Snake Eyes. Man, I don't even know who she is. Lady J, possibly. Flint. I don't know. Let's take a look. The pages, very good quality. The binding, excellent. You do get a lot in this. So first off, we start with this double-paged art spread where you can see a lot of the characters. Really cool. General Hawk's briefing. Of course, this whole thing is kind of given to you like a military brief, which is fine. The art is fantastic. The G.I. Joe data files. So these are small snippets on the characters from like the cartoon and the toys and the comics and whatnot. So you've got Ace, Airtight. You might recognize some of these names: Alpine, Airborne, Barbecue, Barrel Roll. I remember Beachhead. I had Beachhead as a kid. So there's an absolute ton of them. Duke, Flint, Jinx. I had Jinx. She was like the ninja. There's Roadblock. Snake Eyes, everyone's favorite. Scarlet, that's her name, Scarlet. So you get a page of this, and then you get into, oh, now you know. What about my favorite Joe? There are so many G.I. Joe characters that they obviously couldn't include all of them in the book. So, gives you a little explanation. Then we've got the actual role-playing game itself, the rules, Games Master, character creation. Character creation is really interesting in this because it forces the player to not only think about what type of character they want to play, but also what their character was before they joined G.I. Joe. So you have a character concept, starting essences, strength, speed, smarts, and social. Select your influences, choose your origin, select a role, and then describe your character. Now, this is all fleshed out in the book. Again, the art, just phenomenal. Form a squad, so on and so forth, different tiers of play. So your influences are basically what your character, what kind of drove him to be where he is, and they give you perks, hang-ups, and things like that. Adventurer, artisan, athlete, checkered past, gearhead, green shirt, martial artist, nomad, professional, small town roots, specialist, thrill seeker. And then your origin. So, were you in the Army, Navy, Air Force, non-branch specific support, non-military? So all of these things kind of matter in creating your G.I. Joe character, which I think is really, really cool. So you've kind of not only got to think about what you want your character to be, but you've also got to think about where your character came from, which is a really great way of kind of creating a character. If you can hear some background noise, that's just people upstairs doing the laundry. So I apologize for that. And then your the roles you would play in the team. Here they give you different perks, things like that. You can be a commando, you can be infantry, you can be an officer, a ranger, renegade, technician. So these also kind of help to focus your character. Vanguard, the old roadblock. Then we get into what the stats are, the essence stats, the scores, and the skills. How skills work, how abilities work. This is all really basic RPG stuff, like your strength dictates athletics, brawn, conditioning, intimidation, might. Speed has acrobatics, driving, finesse, infiltration, initiative, targeting. You know, this is all, if you've played an RPG, you kind of understand skills and skill modifiers. So I'm not going to kind of go into it here. Then you get some general perks. These are things that you can gain as you level up. Think of them as kind of extra skills. Some of them have prerequisites. So, for example, to get the green perk, you need to be level 4 or lower. And 3 times per mission, when you make an unskilled skill test, you do not suffer a snag, kind of like a disadvantage. There is a lot of them. We get into the equipment. Of course, what RPG book wouldn't have equipment? This just tells you how much you can carry, how many weapons you can carry, and what the weapons do. And there are a ton of tables here. Different upgrades you can give to your weapons. Of course, what G.I. Joe game would not be complete without upgrading your shit. Armors you can get, upgrades to your armor. Different kits that you can kind of put together. So we have like a standard medicine kit, burglary kits, climbing kits, that kind of a thing. And then all the different gear. And pets, you can have animal pets, you can have drone pets if you want a drone. You can kind of get those, which is all cool. And then we go into the different vehicles. What is G.I. Joe without those awesome vehicles that they would always kind of run around in? So we've got the, the amphibious personnel carrier, the all-weather and environment striker, dragonfly, jump pack. It's just all stock standard G.I. Joe vehicle stuff, which you can get for your missions, which is really cool. Then we go into combat, because of course it's G.I. Joe. It needs to be combat. We have the standard initiative, what you can do on your turn, making an attack. It's all stuff that RPGers would know. This is really cool. Attacks with multiple shift skill modifiers. They give you examples of it. Some really good tables. Roll for your attack, roll for defense, healing and damage, all of that kind of stuff. I love this knowing is half the battle, because if you remember the end of every episode of the cartoon, they would have some stupid PSA message. And now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Yo, Joe. It's really, I don't know. I just think it's fucking cool. Then you've got like the exploration part of it, where you go through time, terrain, all that kind of thing, extreme conditions, all of the usual stuff here. The different locations that you can visit. We have the pit, which is the G.I. Joe's main base, back alleys. What I love about this section is not only does it give you some information about the area and whatnot, but it gives you some plot devices to use as a games master. You know, maybe you want to set a game in like the back alleys, but you don't quite know how to get it there. They give you the plot seeds. Very, very helpful. The aircraft carrier, forward operating base, undersea base, urban areas, war zone, battlefield or battle space, swamp biome, forest or jungle biome, military base, Cobra Island. Wow, that is so cool. Now we move into the threats. This is really one of my favorite parts of this book, because it tells you kind of how to run the bad guys. And I love this section, especially on loot. In a typical game of, say, Dungeons and Dragons, you'd kill a monster, loot the body, take the treasure. But in a game of G.I. Joe, they're saying you can't possibly do that because you'd be dragging around a whole bunch of weapons and stuff. However, sometimes you might want to do that, so it just warns the games master. Really cool little section. We have Cobra Commander. Always wanted this figure, but in Australia you had to cut the barcodes off the back of the packets of G.I. Joe figures and then like send them away, and I just, nah, not for me. He comes with perks, attacks, powers and gear. The Baroness. Never had the Baroness figure either. Destro. I had Destro. Destro was fucking cool. I really loved what they did with Destro in the G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. I thought that was really cool. Played by Christopher Eccleston. Awesome, awesome actor. Pretty much revitalized Doctor Who, so right there he gets a thumbs up. Plus he was awesome in Gone in 60 Seconds. Really sinister motherfucker in that movie. Dr. Mindbender. And then we just get notable Cobras. We get like Blackout, Firefly, Major Blood. And then we get the Cobra Corps. We get the recruits, the troopers, Apprentice, Viper, the Cobra Officer. Then we get the Psytech, or as they're referred to as Nerd Vipers, Televiper, Techno Viper, the Battle Android Trooper. I actually had one of those toys as a kid, the Bat Trooper. The Specialists, Strato Viper, the Eel, and Mercenaries. With a nice how to create a really good Cobra NPC, which was very helpful. Crimson Guard, Tomax and Zamot, which You know, Xamot is Tomax backwards. Haha, very clever. Dreadnoks. Zartan, pretty cool. And Zorana. The Red Ninjas, Red Ninja Scouts, Archer and Striker. Red Ninja Master. Then we get the Cobra Vehicles. We had the Joe Vehicles before. We get the Cobra Vehicles. Now the downside is we don't get to see what they look like. We got to see what each G.I. Joe vehicle looked like, but we don't get to see the Cobra Vehicles. Ferret, Stinger, Trouble Bubble, Hiss, Fang, Rattler, Moray. We get that, Moray, Night Raven, Reconnaissance Jet. How to run a mission. Every RPG has this. Pretty much just how to helping new games masters how to run the game itself. We do have campaign versus session versus mission versus scene, which I think is a really good breakdown on to help new games masters get acclimated to how to do things. We have an adventure, Snake Pit. Sorry about that little delay. So the Snake Pit is an adventure, like just to help get everyone up to speed, which is pretty cool. It comes in a few parts, so you can kind of run through everything. The aftermath, motor pool confrontation, and then we have the index, of course, which has some notes and the character sheet at the back of the book. Okay. What did I think about G.I. Joe role-playing game? Personally, I fucking love this thing. I think with the right group of people in the right mindset, especially people around kind of my age that grew up with G.I. Joe, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Bringing younger people into it, I'm not actually too sure about that. You would really have to... I mean, there's an inherent danger in creating games like this that rely heavily on nostalgia. And I think G.I. Joe does rely heavily on nostalgia. But overall, it's a solid system. You can have a lot of fun with it. It's... I don't know if it's a great game for people that are not familiar with the franchise. There's a lot of background there. And, you know, asking people to jump feet first in. I mean, even the movies are old now by today's standards. I teach film studies at a university, and a lot of my students, you know, if a film is 5 or 6 years old, that's an old movie to them. So, you know, you've got to think about who your target audience is. But for people like me that grew up with this, that love the franchise, that watched the cartoon, that read the comics by Larry Hama, that are familiar with the newer comics, that enjoyed the movies for what they were, this is a fantastic game, and I highly recommend it to those people. I look forward to seeing what they do with the Transformers franchise. But until then, yo Joe, this is G.I. Joe role-playing game by Renegade Game Studios. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, hit the notification button. go and check out Plaguelands Media's first Kickstarter. The link will be in the description below. You can also follow us now on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yes, we buckled and have a Twitter account that will give you updates on what we are doing. But most importantly, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.